Welcome to our panel discussion on green production. Topics such as climate change, climate protection, CO2 reduction, or environmental protection are on the daily agenda. They are omnipresent. But also green economy has reached the center of the public discussion. But what does it mean? What is green production or green manufacturing? So it's just a production process using environmental friendly options and operations. It means the reduction of emissions and of pollution. It means the efficient use of natural resources. It means recycling and the reuse of important materials. But it means also the use of sustainable and clean energy. So these are the topics we want to discuss in today's panel. And I'm very glad to have three distinguished gentlemen from the Austrian green industry with me. So I may introduce to you Mr. Manfred Hackel. He is the CEO of Irema Plastic Recycling Systems. Next to him is Martin Hackel, and I have to admit they are no brothers or relatives, it's just the same name. He is the global director of the business unit Solar of Fronius International. And next to me, Lukas Schirnhofer. He is the authorized signatory of Polytechnic Biomass Energy. So I would like to start with Lukas, who is sitting quite next to me. Your company, Polytechnic, is well known for energy generation, but also for combustion technologies. You're working together with many industry companies. But when it comes to environmental protection, from your point of view, is it quite a new topic covering the industry within the last years? Or has there been a long development and a longer history in environmental protection?
So our company is mainly doing this job now for more than 50 years. And we have seen that until the late 90s, it was a general topic in the sawmill industry, woodworking industry, to recover energy from residues. Beginning with the millennia, there was the first boost for renewable energies, and this was basically the starting point of renewable energy use. And ever since then, it has been an increasing topic also in industries outside of the sawmill and woodworking industry. And the second boost, what we have seen in the market, came up with the discussion on the Green Deal, and basically then with the publishing of the Green Deal and with the commitment of the states to follow the Green Deal of the European Union.
I see. Thank you. Martin, your company Fronius, you're well known for solar energy, for welding and also charging technologies, also working together with many industry sectors. So we heard there is quite a tradition in green economy and green industry, but do you think it is rather a luxury some companies would use to get good PR, or is it a stronger drive within the industry as well?
Good question. I think the time where renewable energy or sustainability is a PR gag is over. I mean, first we have the plan in the European Union to decarbonize our economy till 2050, in some countries even earlier. That's one side. That of course is a huge challenge for industry and economy. On the other hand, it's a huge opportunity. But I think the real fact is when we talk about sustainability and defossilization, that it really became a competitive advantage within companies. So if you think, for example, you save energy, so you save cost. You get more productive if you think about how can you save things. Employees love to work for a company who takes care for the future and not only for today. It helps you in future, already nowadays, depends on the industry, to save carbon taxes. It helps you to take risk out of your supply chain if you know maybe you can use recycled resources and raw materials and so on. So altogether, I think it's much more than a PR gag. And of course, if you do good things, you should shout it out. You should tell everybody. and especially also your customer. So it's part of the image, of course, you create for your brand and so on. We at Fronius, we also, besides, of course, trying to produce in a sustainable way and to do sustainable things, we also generally look for products who help to make our customers, allow our customers to have a greener production. You said, for example, my colleagues from the Perfect Welding business unit, they have the most efficient welding systems. They work on welding processes which allow to weld special materials or very thin sheets of metals in order that car manufacturer, for example, can build lighter cars and so on. So it's really much more. It's an industry trend and it goes very deep into technology nowadays.
Thank you. Manfred, as CEO of Arema, your company is worldwide known and has a high expertise in plastic recycling. And you're dealing with many partners and customers along the whole value chain. I know you're also strong in networking and cooperating with these many partners. So what do you face? Which challenges might there be by implementing recycling processes? But also, we already heard about the benefits a company could get from using environmental protective technologies. But also, do you see any more benefits by plastic recycling, for example, in your field?
There are different challenges for the plastic industry. And on one hand, sure, the image, which is not the best due to the plastic waste. But on the other hand, it's also quite important to explain that we need plastic for our life. If you think about health and medicine, telecommunication, building, construction, packaging, and all of that. And that's the reason why the plastic industry has fully committed to change the business model of the plastic industry from a linear business model to a circular business model. And such a circular business model can only work if the whole companies of the entire chain are working together. The brands, the supermarket, the virgin supplier, the machinery supplier, the converters, the recycler. So everybody has to work together to make it circular. And we as Arema, we are pushing in this direction quite strong since many years because we believe that it is a must to make plastic circular for the image and for the world because plastic can give a quite positive impact on CO2 and our climate.
I see. Thank you. Lucas, we heard a lot now how companies can benefit. It's maybe not only a benefit for environment, but maybe you see the topic of shareholders, stakeholders, and the companies as such. Do you think there are more benefits you could get using green production processes in their companies?
Of course, there are more benefits, and as Martin has also said before, a lot of employers trying to select companies which are doing positive things for the environment, and they say, yeah, I'm going to work for a company which has a positive impact on the environment, which cares about the future, but also on the side of the stakeholders and the shareholders. So in the last, I would say, 10 to 15 years, there is an increasing number of not only private investors, but also institutional funds that is screening their portfolios, and the share of companies which are, let's say, eligible for green investment is growing ever since. So it's becoming not only a trend in the environmental business, but also in the financial business, which on the other side also gives an additional boost to the companies. And we see that also in our client base. So from being a supplier for sawmill and woodworking companies in the 90s, we now have not only energy providers or utilities, but also financial institutions which invest in environmental projects and in the generation of green energy.
I see. That brings up a topic for me. What we heard now is rather in my head creating the image of bigger companies implementing it. Manfred, do you think it's also a topic for smaller companies, small and medium-sized companies, to go into green production processes?
Yes, because if we understand that green production means less energy, less waste, less resources, that means more efficient, and that reduces the costs. And due to that, it's for every company, and especially also for small companies, quite important. And on the other hand, I think small companies has a big advantage. Normally, small companies are faster in decision, in doing and testing something. And if you look on our area where there is now a big of change, that means speed is quite important, as always in business. And so I see a huge benefit for small companies to going in green production.
Right, that's good news. So I would like to switch the topic a little bit and come to the governmental framework. Martin, the sector might be quite dependent on this. Do you see it like that? And on the governmental incentives companies could get to invest in more environmental friendly production methods. And is there a need of even a stronger governmental support?
I think we need to distinguish between regulation and support, especially when we talk about energy, and energy is a highly regulated market globally. For politics, it's always important to talk about energy and how to supply energy, so it's a topic. Maybe different to we just are within or ended the industrialization 4.0, where everything was about digitalization. I strongly believe that the decarbonization and the defossilization of the industry will be the industry 5.0. And all the others were more driven by, let's say, the idea of increasing profit. The 5.0, the defossilization, will be more driven by regulation and needs more regulation. On one hand, because the energy market is very complex, we need to take care that, of course, we, in this energy transition, also the people, the society accepts it. We need to take care that it's manageable for the industry and for the economy, this transition. But on the other hand, I also see that the renewable energy made a huge step during the last years. We became very competitive with coal and gas power stations when it comes to the production of electricity. And the question more is if we manage, and therefore we need the governments and the regulation to manage a level playing field between these energy sources, because now it's more like, okay, the fossil fuels can do what they want and somebody else pays the damage which they're causing. So somebody else pays the climate change and so on and the problems out of it. And the renewables need governmental support in order to compete. I think if we would make the renewable more the new normal, and make the energy sources pay for what they cost, let's say, I'm pretty sure that nor solar or wind energy or hydrogen needs support, or a cradle-to-cradle system would need support if everybody pays the damage it's causing. So, but coming back to your question, I would wish more a system where renewables are the just normal and they are competitive and doing fine, and where the governments are taking care that it's socially acceptable and that the transition phase works out fine also for the economy.
Okay. I would like to go more into a practical question. Lucas, when you're together working with partners, with the industry sector and installing devices, so from your point of view, your experience, what were the challenging parts you could have implementing and doing a transition to a greener production process?
The main challenges are the investment costs. So compared conventional energies and renewable energies, there is still a huge gap in the investment costs. And as a very good point from Martin, the subsidies and supports would be not necessary if we can address the costs where they are actually happening, so where the CO2 is actually emitted. And if we present to our clients, to our potential clients, a life cycle analysis compared conventional oil and gas or a renewable energy, in our case biomass, in nearly most of the cases it turns out that over the life cycle of the plant, the costs are better for renewable energy. So the transition that we often see is to give our clients the understanding of if they invest not in a short term up to 5 years, but also in a 10 to 15 years process, and giving this life cycle costs that they can actually have a benefit. And if we can reach the stage where carbon or CO2 has an effective value and not just a theoretical value on the paper, then I think this transition would be much easier and would go on much faster.
I see. Taking Martin's role as the global director at Fronius for the solar units, I'd like to take this globalized and international aspect. How do you think is this extremely strong globalized economy playing a role for sustainable supply chains? So,
yeah, I think there are also several aspects of this question. I mean, first, let's start with COVID. COVID, of course, has the potential to change something general in the global supply chains. On the other hand, COVID also showed us something that huge or global problems we cannot solve alone. Yeah, we can solve COVID, we can solve the climate change only if we work together. So it will need this global cooperation. I strongly believe that a future technologies, for example, would allow companies or regional economies to get more independent. Because when we recycle materials, we can keep the raw materials more close to us. Or when we produce renewable energy, it's happening in a village, in a city, and so on. On the other hand, we will need these global technologies for fighting climate change. And there I also think that that when you bring it down to to the technology which is needed on a global scale, we need the companies who get a global supply chain. A good example, for example, our latest innovation, which we tried from the first scratch in a drawing of an R&D person till the, let's say, life cycle end of this product to build sustainable insight. But we only can do this if we bring all our suppliers together. If they work with transparency, they know where the raw materials are coming from, we understand the transport ways, we know how they use recycled materials and so on. So, and this will put more and more pressure also, this sustainability pressure into this supply chain.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to sum up a bit and give an outlook. Yeah, so I'd like to ask Manfred, and maybe it's a question everyone can take then in a short way. Yeah. So, where do you think will the trend go in an international perspective? What will we face in the future? Will there be more green, and how will it be implemented maybe in industry? So I would like to start with Manfred.
Now, it will sure come more green to the world. I think we see it in the European Union. We see it from the Austrian government. So that's everywhere seen. And I see three trends. One trend is to reuse, to recycle, and to close loops in small areas, in a company by itself, and so on. That's one thing. The second thing is that the climate is such a big topic that we heard from Martin also, that we have to collaborate much more. And the last trend, in my opinion, what we should also have in our mind is the topic of digitalization. Because the digitalization we need also to give the history of the product with the product to the next life. And I think that's quite important by closing the loops. And these three trends needs innovation. And I think for that, we can be proud to be in Austria, in such a good economic country with a lot of good companies. And we have to work together as a country, as companies, and to show that to the world what we can bring to the world in the green technology area.
Thank you. Martin, what is your prediction for the future?
I'm also very sure and very optimistic. And we also don't have, let's say, other chance, I would say, as human beings on this spaceship Earth, than to take care for that. And all the technologies became very accessible, I would say. Everything is here in order to create this new future. It's now not so much about inventing the new things we need. The technologies are here, and it's the point, how do we integrate them in existing systems? How do we design the transition phase from A to B? And that's it. But yes, we will be able to manage, and the solutions are here. We can be really optimistic.
Okay, thank you. Lucas?
I also see it out of question that green production and renewable energy will have a much more increasing role. I think for me the question is how fast we can do it, not when, but how fast. And when we can get the big multinational corporates on board. Because if they are on board on that, I think there will be an even much faster process in the transition towards more green energy. And for example, if you take Microsoft, they want to get all their CO2 emissions they had in the past invested in green projects. That's one of the big ones. And if several come and follow, this will get a real boost not only to small-scale R&D companies, but also to mature companies which are working in the field of renewable energy and recycling.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So I think that was a good final statement, because it gives the perspective that the future might be very positive and green. So thank you for this discussion. I would like to invite all our attendants to join the B2B matchmaking platform in the afternoon sessions, because then you can discuss with these gentlemen and representatives of their companies, maybe get more precise informations and hints they could give by implementing environmental protection processing in your companies. So thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you for this great panel board we had today. And I wish you a pleasant and very fruitful continuing event. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.